couple of key notes that I've made from earlier presenters, which I found interesting. 130 changes, which is pro sort of tenant. I think about 130 changes pro tenant. I'm thinking maybe risk and exposure is going up a little bit. Stepping changes going out through to 1st of July 2020. I learnt about the pet exposures increasing. I didn't know about previously, but something we can talk about, pet exposures into properties. There was a topic mentioned raised about some malicious damage, talk about malicious damage, which I will do. And obviously exposures of tenants playing the game. So let's talk about, we've covered off exposures of tenants playing the game. What can you do then as the landlord, property owner, as the like, in reducing your risk? Obviously, an easy solution to that in reducing risk is insurance. And then so let's take the opportunity now to talk through about insurance that's available. So historically speaking, and I'll kick on, I'll move on from some slides that we've got up there. Effectively, a lot of landlords were taking out home and contents cover and not changing or redoing their policies, reviewing the policies when they were then letting properties out. A traditional home and contents insurance policy is not designed and is not there to cover you for having your property let out and having third parties renting your property and getting rental income from it. So it's time to review and see what policy you've got in place first of all, and then to understand that there is specific policies out there available for landlords. Now, your traditional landlord's policy available in the market is covering you for your contents and obviously for your loss of rent and your rental default. Covering you for your investment, which is your rental income that's coming in, but there's also policies out there that's available that's covering you for the property and the landlord exposure in the one policy. Not so common, but it is available, and I can step through that a little bit later. That's all right, we can keep going. So myself, Luke Eagle, I'm representing a company by the name of Invest Cover. So Invest Cover is a insurance brokerage. So I'm not here representing one insurer, I'm here representing the interest of yourselves. So we effectively place you with or make a recommendation on a policy that best suits your needs. Whether that need just be a landlord policy for if you've got an apartment in an apartment building that's covered by a strata, or if you have a home property that you're needing to insure the property as well as the landlord exposure, being that rental income, having that third party living in the property. So we've had a lot of scenarios and things talked about tonight about the pets, about changes that's pro-tenant and the like. And there was some earlier questions at a session this afternoon that if there was a setup of a drug lab in a property, can it be covered by insurance? Yes, it can. There is insurance that's available. There is a number of insurance companies that is offered by financial institutions and large other insurance companies direct, that they are excluding those types of activities. They're also excluding the malicious damage component that we'll talk about a little bit later. So now's the time to have a look at what policy you do have on your investment property to see what is it covered and what doesn't it cover. Working with an insurance broker, we can be your expert and provide you with the guidance and highlight what you do have and what you don't have, and hopefully get some savings for you at the same time with our buying power in what you're paying for. Ready to go?
Well, we've got it there.
Doesn't work? That's all right. So effectively, what I've done for tonight's presentation is effectively tried to benchmark off one of the policies that we found as one of the best that's in the market today. Now, the policy is available to you as landlords, and I can explain at the end of the presentation how you can apply for cover. But one of the things that we've gone in for with the landlord section specifically is making sure that you're understanding the differentiation between defined events and accidental damage. So under defined events, effectively the insurer is saying, we're giving you a contract, and if something happens a part of that contract, we'll pay for it, but if it's not a part of what we've defined as an event, it's not covered. Accidental damage, I'm sure we all understand the definition of an accident, very broad. Scenario that popped up earlier on the week was a tenant was dragging some type of cabinet or equipment over a floor. now wouldn't define that as malicious damage, but it caused some significant damage to the flooring itself. It's an accident. Defined events, it wouldn't be covered. So something to be looking out for in, what's the policy type that you've got? Now, like everything, you get what you pay for. Defined events is a lot cheaper. So just be mindful of the defined events versus accidental damage. One of the tips I'm here to give for tonight. Now, your standard cover that is sum insured for landlord's policy is around the sort of the 40 to 65,000. Our benchmark policy, we've got it at 60,000. So you're effectively your contents for your landlord section, and I'm just focusing now on the landlord section. Oh, we do have slides, great. So the landlord section of the policy, around that $60,000 mark. So that's what we're giving advice and recommendations of, sort of a bit of a benchmark. But most policies in the market are around the sort of the 40 to 65. Okay, malicious acts by tenant. It is covered, or you can get cover. I'm not saying everybody covers it, but policies are available in the market, and phone through to us and we can make a policy available to you for malicious acts by tenant. Now, malicious act, I don't think I need to define or explain what a malicious act is. And so if you've got tenants in there playing the game and then causing malicious damage too, it's generally policies that we've got available is covering the content sum insured that you've got in your landlord section of the policy. Accidental damage to building, we do have access to a policy which has been very kind to cover contents as well as building in the one policy. So if I take for a scenario you have an apartment block, you have a unit inside an apartment block and you've only got the landlord section, sometimes there is a grey area in between what's the contents and what's the building. Now, I'm sure you all understand that the building cover is covered by the strata policy, which we get, but sometimes the tenants cause damage to the building, which the strata policy doesn't want to help you out with. So there is policies available out there that can cover you the accidental damage to building section under your landlord's policy. Very new and something to be made aware of that's available for you. Theft by tenant. There might be things inside your home, apartment, that can get stolen. Another insurable type of event. Something that's not common, so again, I'm just trying to pick off the benchmark policy that's available, so look inside your policy to see what is if you do have theft by the tenant. Now I'm trying to dive into the loss of rent. Now, this is very important because this is your investment income, so you want to insure the investment income. A lot of financial advisors are always saying, protect your income. Income protection insurance doesn't always insure your wages. Comes in. Well, this is another type of wage. So it's a landlord insurance policy designed to insure you against that loss of rental income. We're also covering tenant default as well. So again, it's available, it's out in the market. Make sure that the policy that you've got in place, well, I hope you do have a policy in place, is rent default, because if we talk about, the renters playing the game, well, this is then something to risk mitigate against it all. Flood. Now, some of you may have apartments that are high up in the air, or some might have buildings that are low to the floor. Look out for flood cover. Flood cover is available. A lot of main financial institution policies that are offered exclude flood. So just take the time to have a look at your policy. Are you covered? Do you have a flood exposure? More importantly, if you do have a flood exposure, then see, are you covered for flood or not? Because flood is available. Buildings cover. So something that gets a bit tricky in the landlord insurance sort of management scenario is, and I'll use the term, most insurers will offer a building policy and then a landlord policy. You're managing two policies. Why not take the opportunity just to put it into one? So you're offering, there is the opportunity to take out an insurance policy that covers the property and the landlord exposure under the one. What we're doing there is we're trying to remove the risk of, number one, two excesses, because you can have property damage and then you can also have a landlord claim, and then insurers will charge you for two excesses. Two policies, two excesses apply. Two policy wordings apply. Makes it even complicated more for us for what's going on. So InvestCover has access to a policy where we've combined it into the one. where in the scenario that there is a claimable event, it's the one excess to come in. So my understanding, a lot of the people in the room would have an investment property that would have a property component attached to it, not so many apartments. So we've covered off on some building cover as well. Again, we've covered off before about accidental damage. Accidental damage is most important within the building section of the policies that you've got. Defined events, if we just think about restricting the cover because it's only covering the things that they've defined that they're going to cover you for. Accidental damage, much more broader. So first thing to look out for. Always be careful as well. If the policy is generally cheaper than the other, make sure if it's defined events or accidental damage. Defined events, always cheaper. Malicious acts by the tenant up to the sum insured is a benchmark wording that we've got that's available. Now, a malicious act by a tenant, I'm sure it would be reasonable to all agree that a malicious act could be setting up a drug lab, could be doing something to the property that would not be in the normal use of that property. So just look out for who's covering for malicious acts and who's not. Again, theft by the tenant up to 10% of the sum insured because it's theft of the property section of the policy. It's not the contents that we're previously talking about, it's the property component. Removal of debris, 10% of the property sum insured. A lot of the times when there is a drug-related activity or things that have been built that wasn't purpose-built for the property, there's going to be removal of those types of sort of unwanted things that's in the property. So something to look out for, removal of debris. Again, a part here just we've highlighted, legal expenses. If you've got a renter playing the game, sometimes you do have to go legal. So we do have a legal expenses component covered within the policy as well. Claims. The quality of the claim service determines the quality of the coverage. It was something that at a young age that a senior man in the insurance industry wisely said to me, and I've stuck by it ever sort of since, and it is so true. So what we do for our claim service, you are managed by our staff. So the claims come to us, we assist you in then managing the claims management with the insurer. So we liaise with the insurer on your behalf. We act for you as you are our client versus we fight the insurer. We always want to get a fair outcome that's a reasonable outcome, that's the best outcome for you versus doing the best thing for the insurer. Generally speaking, in the broker-related products perform far worse for the insurer than what the direct products do. So in the scenario where the consumer, the landlord, the whoever is going direct to a financial institution or is going to an insurance call centre, those insurers return such better profits to the insurance company because they don't have some expert sitting behind it knowing what's covered and what's not. And you go through a call centre, you have a long wait time, you don't really know what you can and can't claim because you've got all these extra benefits that sit in there. So they bring such a better return for where what's been known in the insurance market is brokers get such better outcomes for clients like yourselves in fighting for you in the event of a claim. Where our claim support is all locally based, local phone numbers to be using, and it's people that you become familiar to you. So it's no offshoring or anything like that. InvestCover has a team of 23 staff, and so it's coming to us. Send a claim form. Claim forms are available on the website, so we just need a completed claim form, or we can assist in the completion of the claim form, and then we'll be managing the claim process along the way. We do work closely with your property manager to keep them updated as well, because it's not a fortunate event that you are having to deal with a claim, whether it be a rent default, damage to the property, or the like. So we're there to act for you on your behalf. 24/7 claim service, I've highlighted those points as well. There's our email address to lodge through, and we do have an online portal where you can lodge things. I'm trying to, in the interest of time and where it is, I'm trying to speed up the process. Has anybody got any questions, or is there something that's a burning thing that sort of you thought What does any of that mean? You've spoken so fast, I don't get it. Is there any questions on insurance? Nothing on that front? No?
So as a landlord, if I want to compare what I've got to what you're offering,
Yep.
how do I do that?
Very good question. Easy to do. There's a pamphlet in the bag there that's got our contact details that's in there. A couple of different options. You can send us an email with your current policy to get a review of what you currently have, and we can provide you a quote with an alternative or to demonstrate the differences on what we've got, because straight away we might be able to achieve some cost savings for you. Phone the office, ask some questions. What does defined events versus accidental damage mean? I have this policy, but I've got defined events. What is the difference? We're happy to talk it through with you as well. Or just there's an online quote form that's on there. So as an insurance broker, we work with multiple insurers. So we work with Australian insurers as well as we can go to Lloyd's of London to get a quote for you. So we need to work on a case-by-case basis to meet your needs. So I don't have a one solution fits all approach, because people might have multiple properties, they might have properties in rural areas, they might have a high-rise apartment. So it's very difficult for me to sit here and talk about here's the price, here's the offering, here's what you can do, when it's a very case-by-case basis. But please contact the office and we're happy to help. I think now with the legislative changes approaching and sort of underway, it would be a very good time to take a review on what policies you've got. Can I get some savings, or can I get some better cover that's available for you?
Do you cover pets?
Pets?
Pets.
I didn't actually cover the pets cover, did I? Yeah, we do. Pet damage to property is covered. Some policies have sub-limits of $500. Some go up to the full sum insured. And that's something that we need to sort of look at, that what is the exposure for you and what do you need. But there is cover available by insurers for the pet exposure that's available. Bearing in mind, if you've got an accidental damage policy and you've got a pet, I'm pretty confident I could get a solution for you in the event if there was damage by something at the property, having that accidental damage component that's available. So to be honest with you, as a brokerage, we haven't seen a claim by pet damage to date. And we manage properties nationally. We have a large amount of properties under management. So I recognise the increased exposure. I'm not a pet owner myself, but I've had dogs in the past. But I do want to point out that we haven't had a pet claim coming on, so not something I could sort of talk about a war story on. We've had a lot of water damage claims, a lot of water leaking claims, a lot of damage to floors with what's going on. And coming back to that component on, there is a misunderstanding sometimes on what's contents and what's building in apartments and the like, when you've got your fixtures and fittings and kitchens and appliances and things like that. So having access to a policy where it's covering a building component under a content section, so it's removing that sort of area of grey or exclusion is something that's a good benefit to look out for. Yeah. Any other questions? Is there anything generally insurance related? I'm happy to answer that. We do cover other, yeah?
In the benefit section for landlord insurance, it says tax audit fees up to $5,000. What's that item?
Yeah, so if, a tax audit fee, so if there was a tax audit related to the investment property, so if you have a business on the side and you have it being tax audited for something that's not relating to the investment property, there is cover available for tax audit. Now it's covering for your professional fees. So your accountant could charge you X amount of dollars relating to the tax audit costs. You can claim that. Yeah, yeah. Something that we have seen claims, and have had claims go out, but we haven't seen a lot of claims activity in the tax audit area of late. 4 to 5 years ago, there was a bit of a flurry around. I'm sure we all remember that there was a lot of auditing going on around investment properties, where we saw a lot of activity on the tax audit. Last couple of years been pretty quiet. Been targeting the small businesses, unfortunately. Any other questions? Happy to take anything else insurance related as well, if it's anything that's not on there. No? Thanks for your time.